Today on Local Whidbey, we're welcoming someone who has been quietly and not so quietly transforming Coupeville into a cultural cornerstone of the Pacific Northwest, Lisa Bernhardt, the Executive Director of the Pacific Northwest Art School and Administrator of the Coupeville Creative District. Lisa isn't just running an art school, she's running a movement. Under her leadership, the Pacific Northwest Art School has become a hub for creative learning and artistic innovation, drawing talent from across the region. But she's also been working behind the scenes on something big, helping Coupeville gain official designation as a creative district through the Washington State Arts Commission. Now, if you're wondering what a creative district is and why it matters, don't worry, we're going to get into that because it turns out creating one isn't just about pretty murals or art walks. It's about building a lasting infrastructure for the arts, encouraging economic growth, attracting cultural tourism, and making space for local creativity to thrive. I'm Magsy, and this is Local Whidbey, the podcast where we talk to the movers, makers, and cultural catalysts shaping the spirit of this island. Let's dive into creativity, community, and Coupeville with Lisa Bernhardt. Hey, Lisa, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I have run into you many times from coming in and out and things like that, and we just had very short conversations, and I thought, I'm going to dig into Lisa because I think she'd be a good interview. So I did, and you are a good interview. So what did you think about that intro?
Well, I was overwhelmed how kind and generous you were. So let's hope I live up to expectations.
Oh, I think you need to give yourself a lot more credit than that.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about how long you lived on Whidbey Island and what first brought you here.
Sure. So I feel like I've been here a long time, but not in pioneer status quality with locals. I've been here 45 years.
Wow.
I came here in 1980.
Okay.
And my father was stationed here in the 50s. So there's the Navy connection. I was lured up here from a very lovely place called Carmel in California. My parents told me, well, you should come with us. We're relocating. You totally could live on Whidbey Island and commute to Seattle for work. So I naively came up here and learned very quickly. That's such a lie, but I made it work.
So what is your creative background?
So I was a pretty shy, introverted kid, but I was always interested in theater and music and dance and was always kind of on the periphery of that, very much enjoying all of that. Kind of from behind the scenes in the sideline. So always kind of lean towards the arts, but then always trying to do something very practical for work. And so it wasn't until I was 45 that I decided I had permission to explore that creative side.
Okay. All right. You had permission from yourself?
I gave myself permission.
You gave yourself permission. Great. So before becoming the executive director of the Pacific Northwest Art School, what kind of work or creative experiences shaped your path?
Well, we did community theater when we first moved here because we realized how dark and remote it is in the winter. And as newlyweds, we lived one block from the Whidbey Playhouse. Okay. And so my husband said, let's go up and just like be in the chorus for The King and I. It's something to do, something
Cute.
Fun. And we'd walk up for rehearsals and we fell in love with the whole theater process, very much in the background again, like a choir part or a non-speaking part and working the lights, running the house, doing stuff like that. So we did that for several years till we moved to Coupeville.
What was your first encounter with the school here?
I would get the catalog in the mail. So there was a huge printed catalog back in the day that went out to everybody who lived in Island County and across the U.S. And I would open it and drool over all the workshop offerings and go, someday when I'm not working and raising kids and taking care of parents, maybe I'll take a workshop. Okay. So when my youngest was in kindergarten and my mom was no longer living and I wasn't having to care for her, I wandered in the door and just said, I'd love to volunteer. Do you need an adopt an artist host? Do you need a class assistant? Can I do some office work for you? So I started out as a volunteer here.
Okay. It's probably the best way to start in anything.
Well, that's what I figured. Find out if you really like it.
Yeah.
And if it's a good fit.
Wow. Okay. So what does a great day look like for you at the school?
Okay. So hold on. So there's a lot of pieces. I really thought this. So I arrive. We're in the midst of holding a fiber art workshop. There's dye pots simmering out in the parking lot with indigo and these brilliant crimson colors. And we call it our dancing clothesline. So the students will hang what they create on the clothesline to dry. And it starts moving with the wind. And we love to go out and videotape it. And we call it the dancing clothesline. design comes to life. We could be having a photography class happening, and I see them out and about in our community, being inspired by what we take for granted that we get to see every day.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that. And then we go to the Island County Jail, and we have jail art instruction twice a month. And that is probably one of the most fulfilling things I do here. So we work with the residential substance abuse participants. They're there because they want to be. Yeah. We do an art lesson. They are like sponges. They absorb it. They love it. And then I come back to the school later in the day, and maybe there's a note from a scholarship recipient talking about how their scholarship here touched and changed their artistic direction and made something possible for them. Yeah. And then at 3:30, when school gets out, we get to watch the school kids walking home, and they go by our little art cupboard, and we try to keep it stocked with free art supplies. So to me, that's a perfect day at the art school.
Yes, that is. So do you have any favorite moments with students, artists, or community members that really stand out to you?
Oh my goodness.
Like
there's so many, 19 years of being here. I mean, there's funny stories of finding like an empty gin bottle hidden in the bottom of the trash can in the bathroom to a teacher showing up barefoot. She's from Australia. She's a cattle rancher. She literally gets off the shuttle with no shoes on. Just these characters, these larger than life people, and they bring this creative energy with them. So, I mean, I don't have any one story. I have so many stories.
So I'm thinking about the gin bottle. And the reason is because how do you know they weren't using that for an art project? I mean,
I don't know that, but it occurred several times over a pattern of years. So we figured it was a particular student, maybe that helped their artistic process.
Help them relax a little bit.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay. For listeners who may not know, what is a creative district? We're going to go there now.
Right. So I think the misconception, and I had it at the very beginning, is creative districts are beautiful places to visit where everyone gets inspired and wants to come visit. And the truth is they are an economic vitality center for creatives. So the state of Washington created this program over 5 years ago to shine a spotlight on those communities that were doing the hard work of creating economic opportunities for creatives to live and thrive in their own communities. Were you creating maker spaces? Do you have galleries? Do you have places for writers to gather? Do you have places for musicians to perform? Are you consciously creating those spaces that makers need to thrive? And so creative districts are beautiful and are inspiring and have cultural and historical significance in their communities. But what is the committee or the group behind the creative district actively doing to promote those folks?
Wow. Okay. That's a great explanation.
I hope so.
A little bit more in depth than this summary view. And so why does it matter so much to a place like Coupeville?
Because I think we were already informally doing all of that work.
Yeah.
Many of the organizations like the Waterfront Association, the Chamber, the Museum, the Sculpture Forest, the Art School,
the Art School.
There's so many of us kind of all doing that work. And it made sense for us to collaborate and maybe amplify our messaging by coming together and sharing the work and sharing the love for the creative economy in the process.
So you're the administrator for the Coupeville Creative District. So how did that role come about?
So the state requires one entity to step forward and be the administrator, which is the fiduciary overarching umbrella that supports the organization. It's usually a 501c3, which is us. It could be your chamber or it could be your town. In some creative districts in the state of Washington, the municipality is the administrator because they already have the infrastructure in place.
Right.
But Coupeville's so small to ask them to fund a paid staff position, that's kind of out of reach for us. So it made sense for the art school because we have a mighty staff of 2. The chamber has a staff of 1.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So it made sense.
A paid staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it made sense for us to take on that because we do a lot of that work already.
Yeah.
So it was an easy fit.
Right. So what inspired you to begin the process of seeking the official designation from the state of Washington?
Well, it was kind of a competitive thing. We'd heard Langley had become certified back in, and they just got recertified. So this is probably about 2019. And we were like, well, we've got everything Langley's got. I mean, they're fabulous. What they're doing is incredible. But I think we have the bandwidth and capability to do that. So before COVID, I reached out to about 40 community members. We had a big meeting here. Are we interested? Is there interested in Coupeville doing this? It's going to take all of us to do this. And there was resounding, yes, we want to do this. And then COVID happened. So we took a pause for a couple of years, and then we resurfaced in 2020 and started the application process, which is really rigorous and long and lengthy.
So what did you say to me? It was a long, lengthy process to put up signs.
Right. But we were here. So.
Yes. So can you walk us through what it takes to become an official creative district? And I know it's a long and winding road.
Right.
What does it take to do that?
So the state has requirements. Obviously, there's an application process. There's a site visit. They have to come see your site. You have to designate a walkable area for the average person. So it can't encompass a huge area. We would love it to go up to the sculpture forest, go out to the Captain Whidbey, like all these places, but that's just not realistic. Right. So it has to be a walkable footprint for the average person that's visiting, and it has to encompass elements of maker spaces, culinary arts, visual, literary, performing. So ours starts here at the school. It goes down Main Street to our downtown historic waterfront corridor, and so we have to designate that. So we had a site visit and got signed off and approved on that. You also have to have community meetings and find out if there's community buy-in. And so we went to council meetings. We had a public meeting at the library. The town is incredibly supportive. They put a line item in their budget before we even got certified to support what we're doing. So you do have stakeholders that you have to have buy-in from. You can't just independently decide, we want this for our community. The community has to say, we want this. Yeah. So that is part of the process. And that's part of what takes time.
Well, and plus, I mean, let's be real. Just the photos people take of the wharf and the different colored buildings that go all over everybody's social media in and of itself is artistic.
Right.
You know, in the history of Coupeville.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think what set us apart was we have this deep Indigenous history that's really unique to a lot of creative districts. Yeah. So we can speak to, we go back 10,000 years of this deep culture and history. And our community project is Beaver Tails Coffee Shop and Cultural Hub. Yeah. And we have a living descendant, you know, from the Tony. So when our application came back for rewrite, 30% of all applications come back. They ask, you know, to flesh it out. They have some questions for you. And they said we were kind of lacking in some diversity. And we're like, yes, we're a white homogenous community. We're really aware of that. So they said, like, the diversity piece, we'd like you to work on that. And then at the same time, Tony and Michelle came to visit, speak at Evie's potluck, you know, in November of that year. And it's like the missing puzzle piece just fell into our laps. Yeah. And what they are able to offer richens and deepens our district so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And even before that, you guys had the canoe festival.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that speaks to, we were doing a nod to the history, but now we have the true living history here. True. And it's not just the white man's version of the history. So
Right. Let's pause for a moment and take time for information about sponsoring Local Whidbey podcast. Season 1 launched with a bang. I started with just over 2,000 unique listeners in my very first month, and it just kept growing. Over the course of the season, more than 9,000 people tuned in to hear real conversations with artists, entrepreneurs, farmers, musicians, nonprofit leaders, and everyday locals doing extraordinary things. And since the last week in January 2025, the website withmagsy.com pages have been opened more than 226,000 times. And get this, even during our summer hiatus, the podcast continued to draw new ears. And get this, even during our summer hiatus, the podcast continued to draw new ears. We averaged over 1,500 unique listeners each month without releasing a single new episode. I guess once a Whidbey Island fan, always a Whidbey Island fan. So now with season 2 in full swing, I've got one more exciting update. I'm officially opening the podcast up to sponsorships. If you're a local business or creative venture looking to connect with an audience that already loves Whidbey Island as much as you do, there's a shiny new sponsorship page on withmagsy.com. You'll find it under the podcast tab. Go take a peek. I must confess, I'm not a fan of loads of ads that go on forever in podcasts. So as not to be a hypocrite, I'm looking for businesses who want to get a message out that is helpful and interesting with my guidance and works well with this podcast. After much thought and being a communication strategist for over 25 years, I'm looking for sponsors who help the community thrive and can give me an ad content that is highly trackable because it strikes a chord or is highly helpful. Whether you've listened from the start or you're just now discovering this island storytelling series, I'm so glad you're here. If you're interested and want to have a chat, again, check out sponsorships under the podcast tab at withmagsy.com. Now, let's get back to the interview. So what do you hope this designation unlocks for Coupeville, like economically, artistically, or culturally?
I just hope it shines a light on what we've already been doing sort of unofficially. And those tourists that are coming for those types of experiences, and I know Whidbey Camino Island Tourism works really hard on what they call
Experiential.
Yes, that word. Thank you. Tourism, because you want people to come here because they're looking for something specific. They're coming to see literary or performing arts, or they're coming for visual arts. And so they pick specific places to come. And we're hoping to attract more of those people. And we're also hoping to attract those people that stumble upon it and then realize what is here and to support it.
Well, also people who are moving here and they're doing their, Google search and they're looking for specific things.
Exactly.
They want to live in an art culture. Centric culture besides the outdoors. So for Mike and I, that was important. And it's very important to me as well. It's not that we're not outdoorsy people, but we also love artistic, cultural experiences as well. And then we didn't know about the huge music community here until I started this podcast, literally. And it's just enormous.
It is.
Yeah.
And the performing arts down in the south end of the island, and, all of that.
Well, and I went to the Whidbey Theater here. I took my mom when she came to visit to the Sound of Music. And I have to say, I was very impressed. I really, really was. It's such a tiny little theater
It is.
Everyone did such a good job. And I'm speaking from going to things in Dallas and Houston and bigger cities. And I was really impressed with that. So now we've got to go to all of them.
And so I think also creative districts, a lot of people don't realize that they are 8%. The creative economy is 8% of the state's gross domestic product. And that's quite a significant chunk of that economy. And that amplifies culinary arts. It encompasses the restaurants that use local foods, the cideries that create local draft beers and ciders. The state recognizes that's part of the creative economy. It's not just your standard, what you think of as a painter or a writer or performer. It can be architects, graphic artists living here doing their work. It's all considered part of the creative economy.
Well, and I was also thinking about this. My mother is a musician and an artist. And so her big thing is all throughout the decades is when arts, music were being cut or, wherever they lived, from the school budgets and from this and from that. And you were just saying how helpful it is even for the people in the jails here. And also, it really helps with emotional intelligence, getting in touch with that for children. And it gives them a viable outlet besides getting some type of education to work later in life and that type of thing. So even the 8%, you can really grow that as far as the other areas of any type of city, town, whatever, that it helps. Right.
And so you touched on something when you reminded me about the jail art program. So our teacher, she always says, and it's proven that there's neural pathways that are created when you're creating art. Or when you're looking at art and enjoying art. She said there's no room for anxiety in your brain when you're creating or looking at art. And that's just such a lovely way to look at it. And so,
well, I don't know if you've seen the documentary about the men in prison who make quilts.
Yes.
It's just, that was an amazing documentary. And the changes in those men from doing that and who they were making those quilts for the children. So, I'm totally a subscriber to that kind of thing for sure. Okay, so let's talk more about the community here in the future. How does Coupeville's unique character, like history, scale, play into your vision of the creative district?
Well, back to the indigenous history. I mean, that's such a unique thing for people. And I think people are craving to learn about history and culture and how it might be missing where they live in a big metropolitan area and they don't feel a sense of connection to that. And by coming here, you know how it is. You get off the ferry, the air smells different, time slows down. Things are different when you're here.
Right.
And to create that sense of magic and wonder when you're here in Coupeville, I think that's what makes us unique and special. You stand on the wharf and look out over the water. There's a sense of place, I think, that the Creative District really can help amplify for Coupeville.
Well, when I interviewed Michelle and Tony, of course, my husband was very interested in the interview because he's from Oklahoma and he's the 16th Cherokee Indian. He looks Greek, but that's Indian. And so he literally asked Michelle on Saturday morning, we were there, and said, does Tony do powwows? And she just started laughing. She goes, people always think that's what all Indians do is a powwow.
Right.
Because he does other things. And then I showed him yesterday the video of him welcoming.
Drumming and welcoming the crew.
I said, look what you missed.
Yeah.
And
that was another thing I missed. My husband and I said, okay, we didn't know that was going on. I would have been there to see that.
Yeah, that's what Mike said. I said, so Michelle told him that, with the canoe festival and other things you do here, that there's no tribe here.
Right.
And that you really have to have a tribe in order to do a powwow. Right. And I'm sure she was probably inside rolling her eyeballs.
Oh, no, she's not. She's a white woman like you and I. She gets it.
I know. Okay. So what kind of opportunities could this open up for artists, businesses, and even students in the region?
So I'll use music for an example. So we've had this little town pavilion in our park, the little covered pavilion for years. Yeah. And about 10 years ago, 20-year-long music concert series ended. I think a lot of the volunteers that had started it had aged out and had burned out. They've been doing it for so long. Yeah. And I live by there and I drive by all the time and I'm like, that's such an underutilized, lovely little resource. Like there should be music flowing out across Penn Cove. So we are going to bring back a music concert on the last day of summer, September 21st in the park. This will be free to the community from 2 to 4. And we plan a 4-part series next year. We've already got 2 bands lined up. The town loves the idea, is incredibly supportive of it. And the idea is to just bring that back to Coupeville and then encourage those folks after the concert, like to go downtown and shop and dine in the restaurants, rent a kayak, go out to EB's, experience everything we have to offer. So that's something we're trying to focus on.
Oh, one of the things I was thinking in my head is just about partnerships. Are you looking for more or you already have them underway?
Core group we're required to have, but we're always looking to collaborate because there's strength in numbers and we can all support each other and make it a better experience with more folks. Like I've talked to Cynthia Mason at the Oak Harbor Music Festival. I'm like, what they're doing is so incredibly powerful. And like, how can we maybe next year support each other with our summer concert series that we both do? Yeah. Can we do some shared marketing? Can we create a map of Whidbey Island that looks like a guitar and have venues listed up and down it and create that kind of awareness?
All up and down the island all summer long. I mean, I went to some of the Whidbey Island Music Festival with Tekla Cunningham. And then you have the Little Big Fest. And then you have the Oak Harbor Music Festival.
And you have Bailey's Corner down in Clinton with his incredible
year-round
he does.
Year-round. Yeah, that's where I interviewed Dennis Brown. I didn't even know that was there.
That's one of my favorite little spots on the island.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because I live up here. I just didn't know.
And it's out in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
And there's no cell service when you're there.
And their food is good.
Yes.
When I interviewed Dennis, they made me a hamburger first, so we had to eat. Then we interviewed.
Right. Yeah. So collaboration, definitely. Yeah. Yes.
Totally. And I just love it when the whole island comes together and there's not this divide from the north to the south.
Exactly.
And I know there's so many people who are working at that. And I was just talking to the executive director of Wicca, and she said the very same thing, is that one of their intentions is to make sure that everyone knows about all the things that go on at Wicca and not just the southern end.
Exactly.
And I just met somebody who has been here for 11 years and didn't have any idea what Wicca was. I want to tell you why. This is ridiculous because I thought it too. So, Wicca is also an acronym for like Witches Association.
Wiccan.
Wiccan.
Yes.
So that's what I thought it was.
And, I can see how you would think that.
Well, that's what this person
And there's
thought.
also Whidbey Island Arts Council with a very similar acronym.
That's right.
Yes.
And then when I looked it up, I'm like, man, I'm such a dummy. Look at all of this. Look who's coming here. Gee whiz. And it's just amazing. Okay. So let's talk about 5 years from now. Okay. What does the Coupeville Creative district look like, and how is it thriving? Kind of like a dream scenario.
Right. So if money was no object and logistics was no object, our school would be bigger in size. We would have a mural painted on the side of it facing the highway that lets everyone know the creative district starts here. We are accepting a donation early next year of a printmaking studio, and I would love to find its own home rather than having it shared at the school. I would love to have a place for printmakers that don't have access to equipment to be able to use it as a co-op. I would love to be able to offer low-cost workshops. I'd love to have it open on the weekends for the public to come.
Kinds of printing?
Printmaking, monopress.
The monopress, okay.
So finding a home for that in our walkable district would be lovely to have that, much like Langley has the glass blowing studio where the public can just walk up and engage and see the process, for children to be able to see that, all of that. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see maybe another gallery or two downtown would be lovely. Some artist studios, maybe tucked above some of the businesses that people could come tour and visit. And I'd love to see music in the park.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that is so close to us too. I just live north of here, and I'm in the county, but I live a little bit closer to Oak Harbor. But for me, it's just driving around the cove.
Right.
So it's like on an island, it's like driving around the corner.
Right.
So yeah, that would be great. I love Coupeville. All right, so these questions I didn't tell you about, but one of the things that I wanted to add was, in this creative district, how do people like me or, anybody get involved in that? And where would you need help?
Right.
For instance, I was telling you that I'm a communication strategist. That's my background, but I'm a left and right brain person. And so I have an artsy side of me as well. But where could you use people who have different talents in business or other areas that would benefit the creative district?
Marketing.
Getting
the word out. So right now, I'm trying to manage the social media for myself and the school and the creative district, and I don't have any training in that. And so to have someone who has the skill set that you have would be a godsend. People who can help spread the word that we have a website with a calendar of events on it. We're hoping to get a sign downtown later this year, created by a local artisan. So employing a local artist to create using our logo. It will have a QR code on it. So visitors, it'll say, you're in a creative district, and then it'll have a QR code. And then it will take them to the events calendar. And they're like, oh, I'm here on Saturday, September 14th. What is there happening? Oh, there's an exhibit at the museum. There's a concert in the park. There's this tour open at this artist studio. So amplifying that, marketing that, getting that word out. And then somebody who just has the strategic brain to look ahead 5 years and say, this is how you'd like to position yourself. I know Scott Price is working on that with his sculpture for us. Like, when I'm no longer here, who's going to take over the reins and keep going what is going and keep it driving? Same thing here with the art school. When I'm no longer here, who's going to be here? Finding those people that want to come on and take on leadership roles.
Yeah. So do you guys have any type of thing where you identify that from people who participate a lot?
Well, it's usually the same people that show up and serve on everything.
I know.
In every community, there's always those folks. But no, having someone like you with the outside fresh eyes, being new to the community and bringing skill sets in that the rest of us on the steering committee don't have, like, we need that.
Right.
So if there are yourself or there are other listeners out there, that have them reach out to us. We would love to, because we're all getting older and we don't want to burn out, and we want the next generation of leaders and creatives to come in and help keep it going.
I'm so glad I brought this up, and the reason I thought about it is because I had someone contact me the other day talking about that specific thing that's in the art community that said, in the future, there needs to be planning so that this stuff doesn't stop and things go awry and things like that. And what do you think about that? Talking to so-and-so. And I said, yeah, have them contact me. We'll talk about it. So I'm glad I brought that up. So listener, if you have the talents that Lisa's talking about and you'd like to help out, please contact her. I certainly am going to continue in conversation with Lisa about this. But I thought about this because my interview with Hi from Walask, she was like, I'm always out there searching for professionals that can help with the extracurricular education of our children. So the only way I know to do that is just put it out there and ask, who do you know? So if you know someone or if you're interested in yourself, make sure you reach out to Lisa at the Pacific Northwest Arts School. All right, so we're going to do our little 10 questions. That's rapid fire questions that are always fun to do. And it's part of one of my favorite parts because it's not as serious. Okay, so what is your favorite Whidbey coffee shop to daydream in?
Beaver Tails, of course.
Beaver Tails, of course. Okay. All right, so Coupeville Art Walk or Muscle Fest?
I would say Muscle Fest because that kind of kicks off the start of the season. After the dark of the winter, I mean, we all need to let loose. It's such a fun thing to do. Even if the weather is horrendous, which it usually is, you can still bundle up and you can still go out there and have fun.
So let's talk about that real quick. Mike and I were actually laughing this year. It's like, it's not Muscle Fest if the weather hasn't been bad, because since we moved here in 2020 and when you guys brought it back, after COVID, it's been horrific, the weather every single time. And so it's kind of like if it was sunny, I don't know if anyone would know what to do with themselves.
Right. That's very true. 2 years ago, our daughter and son-in-law, well, almost 2 years ago, left for Japan the last day of Muscle Fest. And one of the things they wanted to do was to go to Muscle Fest before we put them on the shuttle to fly to Japan. And it was like 39 degrees and the wind was howling. Yeah. And they're like, we're doing this. We don't care if it's freezing cold because we want that memory. Yeah. And it was so important to them.
Well, our favorite thing is the chowder tasting because Mike and I are foodies. And he likes mussels, but for me, I have a textural problem with them. I love clams though, and I like the celebration of everything that comes in that's so generous in Pin Cove. But we love the chowder. That's our favorite part for sure. Okay, so let's go down and finish these questions. So public art you wish Coupeville had. I think you already mentioned that.
I kind of hinted at a mural on the back of the art school building.
And the print press.
Yes, so the printing.
Which is a public
studio.
art, but it could be from the outside, yes. Artist, dead or alive, who do you love to invite to Coupeville for a residency?
Ooh, Frida Kahlo.
Ooh, yes. She's my favorite too. Wow. Yeah, that would be amazing. Okay, what's a harder job, grant writing or hanging a group art show? No, to me it was like, I think it'd be fun to hang all of the art. It is. I've made gallery walls, for family members, specifically my mother, with pictures and art and the whole thing, and I always find it really fun. All right, go-to song while driving through EB's Landing.
Okay, don't laugh. I moved here in 1980, and my husband-to-be took me to my first ever rock concert, and it was Heart. So Barracuda is my song.
No, I'm not laughing. That's right. Now, some people might think it needs to be more mindful and relaxing, but I can see Barracuda. That's great. Okay, oil paint, clay, or collage?
None. Photography.
Photography.
I know, yes.
Okay.
I'm a very amateur photographer, but I think I've picked some things up just by osmosis over the 19 years here. Yeah. And before I used to always cut people's heads off in photos, and now I've learned to see, and just the art of seeing through a photographer's eyes has changed my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I like photography too. If Coupeville had a creative district mascot, what would it be?
I'm going to say salmon.
A salmon?
Because the Swinomish tribe is people of the salmon. Okay. As you know, salmon is abundant or fishing right now for them. First I was going to say, the mussel or, something. But I'm like, I think the salmon.
So what's your best spot in Coupeville to get inspired?
My garden. I have a little serenity nook in my garden. Oh, nice. I mean, there's so many places, but they're so... Everyone knows.
What does your serenity nook look like?
It's a little wooden structure my husband built many, many years ago for me. It's got a yoga pillow. It's got some sort of Asian-inspired themes, and my cat loves to curl up on the pillow in the summer sunshine. And it's just, I've got some little artifacts hanging in there, and it just brings me a sense of peace and inspiration when I see it. So.
Yeah, and you're trying to get out of your head. Barracuda.
Those are the days when I ran the bluff. Now I am like slow walking the bluff.
You ran the bluff. I love that. Okay. 3 words that describe Coupeville's creative energy.
Oh my goodness. Transformational. And I'm trying to think of a way to describe transporting yourself somewhere. Transformational, transportative. Right. I don't know if that's a word. And talent. Yeah. Abundant talent.
Abundant talent. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth. Thank you so much, Lisa. It was so much fun chit-chatting with you.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed it.
I did. Good. This was fun.
All right.
Thank you for what you do.
Sign off.
All right.
Thanks, listeners.